This video is brought to you by the Farmer Klein YouTube channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Farming Simulator 22 Map First Impressions video. Today we're going to take a look at Galgenberg. But before that, this video is brought to you by Jimmy Romanowski and Mervyn Knotts. Thank you for being farm barons. So the Galgenberg map can be found over at the farmingsimulator.com website or the in-game downloadable content menu, and as of the 1.0 release, this map is available for all platforms. Let me read you a little bit of the description. Welcome to Kirchen, a district of the large district town of an area for which I cannot pronounce, on the edge of another area for which I cannot pronounce. This map is based on the scenic depiction of the place with the original replica of the main courtyard and the course of the streets. What awaits you on the map is one original replica of the largest farm on the site, 6 more playable courtyards, run free place farm to build your own farm, 100 fields and meadows with forest areas where everyone gets their money worth, various outlets such as a country store, small productions such as gardens or apple orchards, small BGA horse farm. You can take water from the ponds and rivers, and there are plenty of forests for forestry lovers among you. This map is also precision farming ready. Now, before we load into the map, there's one thing that I want to mention. On the website, there are 19 mods listed as required mods. Sadly, that is not all of the required mods. There are 3 more that are not listed in that listing. Those additional 3 are additional decoration package, placeable slurry trader, and Franconan farm buildings. And I mention this because this map also has a custom farms setup that if you load this map up in multiplayer, there are 7 predefined farms and the BGA already set up with various starting money. So if you do put this on a server and you don't add those additional 3 mods, you will not be able to start the server because it's going to kick back that there are required mods and it won't list them and it won't let you start it. So you do need to know about those 3 additional mods that are not listed. Now let's go ahead and do a rundown of all of the mods that are required for this map to load up. In addition, we're going to use additional field info, additional game settings, field lease, and field calculator for our video. So you're going to need additional decoration package. You're also going to need the Variant Farm package, the Variant Farm pack, the bunker silo set, the consumable purchase station, the dairy decorative details pack. Then you're also going to need the Franconan farm buildings. You're going to need, of course, the map itself, half timbered buildings, the Hessen farm. You're going to need the Horman barn set. You're also going to need the Liebherr X Power, the Oberlinter. You're going to need the outdoor climate pigsty, the placeable slurry trader. You're going to need the sail silo, silage silo pack, the slurry buying station, the slurry tanks, the small garden, the small grain silo, and the small heating plant. And once you have all of those mods in your mod folder, you're actually going to be able to load the map up. And I will say that if you load this map up in farm manager mode or start from scratch, you will find all of the farms are pre-built exactly how you're going to see them here in new farmer mode. In addition, you will have no land at the start, and you do own machinery in that alternate play mode. And that's going to play interesting into a multiplayer server because Farm ID 1 has the most starting money and it has starting machinery, whereas none of the other farms that are predefined, if you load this map up in a multiplayer server, is going to have any farm machinery at all. Let's go ahead and take a look at the PDA. And you will notice when we zoom on out that we have a fair bit of forestry scattered around. Although if we go ahead and take a look at the lands area, you'll see a good bit of that forestry area is in the unbuyable area land. We can buy the unbuyable land, but we're going to need $11 million in order to do that. Do note, when we start this map up, we do own Farm ID 86, which is the main farm. Farm ID 21, 26, and 76. They correspond with fields 27, 86, and 79, respectively. In addition to that, we have 7 other possible farm areas. They are Farmland ID 16 for $85,920, Then we have farmland ID 115 for $258,000. We have farmland ID 87 for $239,000. We have farm ID 116 for $200,000. Farm ID 113 for $77,960. Farmland ID 91 for $230,000. And farmland ID 114 for $130,000. In addition to that, we do have a biogas plant that is located right here. It is not purchasable from the farmland screen. You will need to buy that by going to the actual BGA itself. And farmland ID 112 is going to be an apple orchard where there are 8 apple trees. If you are looking to buy the apple trees, you will need to buy farmland 112. Now, if we do take a look at our crop types, we are missing a few crops that are available to us in Farm Sim 22. Specifically, this map does not have cotton or sugarcane available. Let's go ahead and take a look at our farmland lease screen and just kind of scroll through the list of viable farmlands. We're going to see how big each particular farmland is, if the farmland includes any field or fields, which fields are included, and then ultimately how much is that farmland going to cost us. And once we get done taking a look at our farm lands, we will then take a look at our field calculator screen, which is going to break down the individual sizes of each particular field. So here we have our field calculator screen. As you can see, we own field number 27, 53, 81, and 86. And of those, the largest field that we own is field 86 at 1.89 hectares in size. As we scroll through the list, you can see what the sizes of all of the other viable fields are on the map. And then at that point, you can cross-reference the field number with the farmland lease screen to see then which farmland that particular field is associated with, to then understand how much it's going to cost you to buy any one particular field. Taking a look at our crop counter, we do have what appears to me to be the standard crop counter available to us in Farm Sim 22, of course, with the fact that cotton and sugarcane have been removed. So you will not be growing cotton, nor will you be growing sugarcane on this map, even if you turn the crop counter off, because those crops are not listed in the main PDA view. Taking a look at our prices screen, you will see that we do indeed have the ability to sell all of our base game crops that are available to us in Farm Sim 22. In addition, we do have the ability to sell our eggs, wool, and milk, as well as silage, hay, straw, and grass. Taking a look down through our productions, we once again do indeed have the ability to sell all of the standard base game productions that are available to us in Farm Sim 22. In addition to that, we do have some custom productions. We'll go ahead and take a look at those here in a moment. We do have multiple lime buying stations, and we do have a stone crusher for our stones. We have the ability to produce apple juice, again from the apple orchard, and then we have apples as well. Then taking a look at our platinum expansion production items, we do not have the ability to produce any of the platinum expansion production items. So if you do want to put those down, then you will need to put down your own sell point. And then also, we do not have a location to sell separated manure if you are playing with pumps and hoses. Now, something that is also relatively interesting about this map, and that is that the vehicles that you have available to you are not quite all listed here. There are a few vehicles that you can enter that are not listed here, but then there are also vehicles that are going to show up on the PDA as if they're yours to use, but you cannot actually enter them. So I'm going to show you some of those, and hopefully it's not going to be overly confusing to the player, but I do kind of wish the map author would have implemented those vehicles a little bit differently, so the player isn't feeling as if they should be able to enter those when they just flat out cannot. Taking a look at our animals, we do not have any animals at the start. We do have contracts available on the map, and as far as production chains owned at the start, we have hay drying. We also own butter and cheese production. This map does not have any collectibles. Speaking of starting equipment, let's go ahead and take a look at the starting equipment that we do own. We own the Valtra N135 Active, as well as the Valtra G105 small tractor. We have the John Deere T560 harvester, that is paired up with the 625X grain header. And then we do not have a header trailer listed. We have the Schaefer 2630 front loader. We have the Branner Z18051/2 XXL PowerFlex trailer. We have the PO5 XL plow. We have the Amazon KG 3001 Super Power Harrow that is then paired up with the Cinta 3000 Super Seeder. We have the Hardy Mega 1200L sprayer. We have the Polysys 1550 slurry tanker. We have the GMD 4411 side mower. We have the Alpine Hit 4.4H tedder. We have the Relant 455 RC Uniwrap round baler and wrapper combo. We have the Joskin Aquatrans water trailer. For our front loader, we have the universal bucket. Then we have a 900 kilogram John Deere front weight. Now, we do not have anything listed here as being leased items. I'm going to point that out because there are items on the map that are listed as being rented by us. But as you can see, we do not have any actual leased items on the map. I did fast forward an entire day in my testing just to see if I would be charged any leasing fees for those things that are listed as being rented by us. I did not have any leasing fees, so I don't think you're going to be hit every day with fees for things that you are listed as being renting, but actually do not have rented. Now, with respect to mods and vehicles, we do not have any custom mods and vehicles that are part of the map, but we do have the Liebherr X-Power that is a vehicle that is listed as a required mod. And of course, it is showing up here. Now, when I quickly just tab to a vehicle, I'm going to be tabbing over here to the Liebherr wheel loader, and this one is showing as being rented by us. We're renting this. Yet, if we go to our vehicle menu here, you're seeing that there are no leased items. If we go and lease a vehicle, it will show up there, and if the information screen will show it as being rented. And we can enter this one. And there are a few other ones that we can enter, but there are definitely vehicles on this map that for whatever reason are showing up as being rented by us, but they are not vehicles that we can actually enter. So here we have a JCB. Again, we can obviously enter it. We can make use of it. If we jump out, we're going to see it is rented by us. And if we take a look at the PDA here, we're over here at the quarry. And just south of the quarry, there are two vehicles that are showing up as if they are usable, but they are not enterable. We cannot enter these, but when we get over to them, we will see that they are listed as being rented by us. In addition, we have the same scenario up here to the northwest. We have three things up here that are listed as being rented by us, but we cannot enter them even if we go up to them. And then over here to the east of the map, we have the exact same thing going on where this road runs off the edge of the map. We have some more vehicles kind of blocking the way that are listed as being rented by us, but we cannot enter them. There's also a few others. There is a skid steer here just north of Farm 5 that is under the same scenario. And I think we're going to find other vehicles kind of scattered around the map. They're in a very similar state. And I really wish the map author would have done something different with respect to that, because that is, in my opinion, going to confuse the player a little bit. They're going to walk up to it. It's going to say rented by you, and you're going to then expect to be able to make use of it, but you're not going to. And then you may also be a little concerned that possibly you're going to be charged leasing fees on something that you cannot use. Now, I did go ahead and fast forward one day while I was testing this map, and I was not charged any leasing fees, so I don't think that is necessarily going to be a problem. But I do think that the way some of those decorative vehicles have been implemented, one, they're full-on poly vehicles, so they will affect on console potentially your slot count, because those are vehicles that are being rendered on the map that you cannot get rid of. And two, I really think it's going to concern players that they have things that are listed as being rented by you, but you can't do anything with. So here we are at the main starting farm in new farmer mode, and we have a greenhouse here that has an activate trigger icon. We left click, we're going to see a dump trigger pop up here. We left click again, it's going to drop down. That is a sell point here at the main farm called the Bio Yard Shop. Then we have our chicken coop. Chicken coop's going to be good for 30 chickens. We have our food trough. And I was trying to find where the marker was for the egg spawn point for our chickens, and I have been unsuccessful at this point in trying to get that located. So honestly, I'm not really sure where the eggs are going to spawn. I kind of have a feeling. I kind of feel that they're going to spawn right here in this dirt patch, but I really just don't know, and we really don't see any markers kind of indicating that. Across from the chickens, we have our cheese and butter production. So when we open that door, you're going to see our dump station pop up. We've got a little bit of an animation on the pipe there. And inside of here, we have our butter production. Milk is going to make butter, and then butter is going to make cheese. As far as our pallet spawn points, we're going to have our butter and cheese pallets spawning right here. We've got our farmhouse with our sleep trigger. We have our maintenance trigger, and what we're not really seeing here with the maintenance trigger are any markers kind of indicating where that maintenance trigger is located. It does appear as if it is located within the building here. We have our wardrobe trigger inside the shed here. Here we have our silo output. And we have our farm silo dump right there. So lots of cute little animations going on with respect to a lot of these triggers. We've got a slurry point here for our cows. We have a slurry trigger there, or possibly that is going to be a milk trigger. And then heavens to Betsy. What do we got going on in here? We got dump point, dump point, dump point, dump point, dump point, dump point. We have a hatchling cow shed. Hatchling? I guess we have a calving shed. Then we have the main cow shed. So here we have 10 cows. This is likely the hatchling, aka the calving area. And then we have the regular cow shed for 85 cows. Water triggers, food troughs, dump points. Now, I will tell you, with respect to, are the farms customizable? This farm is not so customizable as one would like to see. In fact, if you sell this building, a lot of these decorative elements within the building are going to remain here. If you sell buildings at some of the other farms, most of the other farms, those buildings will go away. But for this particular farm point, they will not go away. So here we have our hay drying. We have our dump point. We have our fill point. And over here we have silo to store mineral feed. And then we have our dump point to add to that silo. and our fill point to draw product out of that silo. So that's going to be, I guess, maybe the dump point for the hay dryer. So then what is this? Unless this is maybe a dump point for a food trough. Well then, what are these? What is that? So we got a lot of stuff going on here and not a lot of visual clues as to what is going on. And what that's going to cause, well, it's going to cause a whole lot of trial and error in trying to figure out, okay, what do I do here? Right? What's accepted where? How do I get stuff into the hay dryer? Well, that's clearly this area here, right? But if you have maybe your triggers hidden, then you won't necessarily know you've got to come up here to this bathtub to trigger that to then expose everything. Now, in addition to those animal areas, we also have a silage bunker here. And then we have this shed that is a part of the starting farm as well. Well then, what does this do, per se? Let's go and check the PDA and just see if any of this is going to provide us some helpful information. So we have hay drying, we have mineral feed storage, we have hay and straw storage. Okay, so this must be to store hay and straw individually. And then we have our output for hay and straw storage, where we could also buy hay or straw input. And over here we have multiple manure heaps, all in this same area. And then we have our slurry trigger for our calving area as well. And that is pretty much the main starting farm. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and buy the other possible player farms. Then I'm also going to go ahead and acquire our apple orchard, as well as the BGA, and then we're going to get on to our fly around portion of the video. I did remind myself that we haven't looked at the soil map for precision farming, so I went ahead and exposed that. This is making use of the French soil map that is a part of the precision farming mod, and I'm pretty sure I recall saying in the precision farming videos that the French soil map is the same as the generic soil map. So while this map is precision farming ready, it is not making use of a custom soil map. Let's go ahead and gain a little bit of altitude, and I have already gone and purchased the additional farm lands. Let's go ahead and take a look at those. You see that we have bought the H2, H3, H4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We've also bought the BGA, and we've bought Farmland ID 112, which is associated with 8 apple trees. And it's something that I had not yet mentioned is we've also bought Farmland ID 98, 99, 100, and 101. Those are 4 small garden production areas as well. So with respect to production, this map has 22 production areas pre-placed on the map. Now that number is a little bit misleading because of the fact that we have 8 apple trees, and each apple tree is listed as a separate production item, and we have 4 small gardens, which are also listed as separate production items. But overall, we have a BGA, we have a fermenter silo, we have silage production, we have hay drying, we have butter, we have cheese production, We have a carpentry. We have bakery. We've got a sawmill. We have the 4 small gardens. And then we also have the 8 apple trees. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of the vehicles that is listed as being rented by us, as you can see down in the info screen. But this is a vehicle that we cannot actually enter into. Same with respect to this truck. It is listed as being rented by us. But if we come over here to the quarry area, this is where we have the wheel loader and the telehandler that is rented by us, but we can also make use of it. So this is going to be a lime buy point. I think what we'll do is just kind of run across the southern part of the map. We do have a player farm down here. Now, overall, this map is extremely beautiful with respect to its decoration, the way everything's laid out, the way the forests are set up. There are various roads going into the forest, as we can kind of see here. Now, this one is kind of blocked off, but we're going to see that there are trails and such leading into the forest. Here we have a player farm. This is H2, if I am correct. On top of this hill, we have a bit of a monument for which the map author is thanking various map authors and mod authors. So I want to go ahead and show you that. And the southern portion of the map is fairly flat, but as you can see, we do have the hilly portion further to the north. And as we mentioned, also way over here to the east, we have the same scenario where we have real vehicles just kind of sitting here, blocking the road. But these are full-on high-res, high-poly count actual models, as if they are vehicles themselves that you can use, and they are all listed as being rented by us, but we can't actually make use of them. Now down here also to the south, we've got some interesting kind of athletic fields. And what I am kind of just guessing is either a school area here or some sort of kind of athletic gym. Here we have a small Fendt tractor that we can actually enter and make use of way down here. And here's an example of the forest area and a nice little road network kind of diving back into the forest area, splitting off and going various places. It's a really well done map visually, but there are a few little things that I think are going to maybe plague players with a little bit of uncertainty, like those vehicles that are listed as being rented by us, but we can't actually make use of. So coming over here, just south of field 26, we have the apple orchard, and none of these triggers pop up until you own the land. So if you want to do apples, you will need to buy farmland ID 20 or 112. Then as far as what the apple orchards are going to need, you're going to need to provide water and manure, and then you are going to get apples as a result. Here we have the BGA, and we can sell some of the BGA, but other aspects of the BGA do not go away. In fact, what we can sell is this building right here, and that is it. The rest of the decorative elements at the BGA here are permanently affixed. We cannot get rid of these. We have three-sided silage bunkers that are a part of the BGA complex. These cannot be sold, so they are permanent. So I would not say that this map is a good candidate to buy the BGA and then sell it and then put down your own, let's say, pumps and hoses style BGA. Now, we're not going to go to the north. But basically, if we continue on that road up there, we're going to find that we once again have some fields. And we also have some vehicles blocking the edge of the map. And as they are blocking the edge of the map, they are listed as being, once again, rented by us, but we cannot make use of it. So here we have a slurry buy point and sell point, and then we also have our animal dealer. This is also where we start out at in the map when we are starting up fresh. Got some nice animated cows roaming the hillside here. We have a player farm right here. And then further up the hill, we have another player farm area. We're going to get to all of these during the drive around portion. A nice church area here. We have some sell points, some buy points. We have our sawmill, another player farm. We have another player farm over here. And then right down from that player farm, we have the 4 small gardens. And these triggers also do not pop up until we own the farmlands that are associated with those. And we'll get to these in a little bit as we get around to our drive around portion. And speaking of that, right here we have our vehicle shop. So somewhat hidden at the vehicle shop is the vehicle buy trigger behind the Manitou forklift. Let's go ahead and get our Mahindra. And then around the corner, we have our dealer trigger. Now the dealer trigger is not showing actual trigger markers as to where the dealer trigger is located. But we'll go ahead and pull that up. There you can see where the dealer trigger is located. I do wish that we would have those markers indicating that. We've got a decent sized area here for our vehicles to spawn in at. But once again, we do have some confusion because we have these 4 Fendt tractors. And when we come up to them, they say they are rented by us, but we cannot use them. We cannot enter them whatsoever. So again, we have more high poly count vehicles sitting here, most likely consuming slot count on console, that the player has no way of getting rid of, nor have they a way of making use of them in any sort of productive fashion. Let's head on out the vehicle shop and maybe make our way to the south first, over to the quarry, and then make our way back around to other things. Visually, as I've said, it's a very, very nice, attractive map. And as we are driving over here to the quarry, let's kind of do a little bit of a rundown on our scoring. We're getting the map at full point with respect to the 22 production items being pre-built into the map. We're also going to be giving the map a full point with respect to the ability to sell all of our base game crops, production items, and animal outputs. Now, while we do not have cotton or sugarcane as growable items on the map, that is not that big of a deal. Map author has elected to remove those from both the crop calendar and from the sell point aspects, so it is not that big of a deal. Coming up here to our quarry, remember, for whatever reason, we can make use of the wheel loader here. We've got our stone crusher. So yeah, I think players would probably like to switch. Maybe I don't want to use the wheel loader, but I want to use those 4 Fendts down at the shop. Here we have a lime buy point. We have to make use of this telehandler. And I'm pretty sure this is all just visual down here. In fact, I don't even think this is a part of a buyable land. Let's go ahead and look. No, this is part of the unbuyable area that we could buy if we wanted to. at a cost of $11 million. Maybe it's an error. Maybe we're not supposed to be able to enter all of those vehicles. Maybe they're not supposed to come up and show as rented by us. I really don't know. But they have been somehow configured to where we are not being charged any leasing fees. But we can make use of some of them, but not all of them. So we'd like to see some consistency there. Maybe we can't use any of them, or we can use all of them. That would be nice to see. With respect to, can the farms be customizable? I mentioned this down at the main starting farm. A lot of the main starting farm cannot be sold, and some of the buildings that can be sold are going to leave some residual decorative items lying around. So as such, since you could possibly sell some, you really don't want to, because of the fact that there are residual decorative items that are going to hang around that you just can't get rid of. Now, I did try to sell a lot of the items at some other player farms, and a lot of the other farms I could sell pretty much everything, right down to the individual decorative elements. But that can get a bit tedious because we're talking about removing, every little barrel, every little piece of junk, and other things that are lying about. But it is possible at most of these other player farms. So we are going to give the map just a half a point there. So down here at Hoff 2, we have what appears to be silo storage. Let's go ahead and check and see what this trigger is saying. Got our grain silos, so we have our dump point and our fill point. And then we don't have an output pipe. We have liquid manure storage. And we have a pigsty that is worth 280 pigs. So our pig delivery point, we have our slurry point. We have our manure heap. And what I am looking for, but don't see necessarily marked, is our food drop-off. Oh, here it is. So inside of this portion of the building, we have our food trough right there. And then I'm going to assume that our straw trigger is going to be on the inside here in order to put straw in those areas. Well, let's go ahead and make our way back up past the vehicle shop, past the small gardens, talk about those triggers, and then kind of drive around town and try to hit all of the other player farms. There is a lot going on in town here. This would be an interesting farm or map in a multiplayer, although with the number of fields and the sizes of the fields, I'm a little cautious and skeptical on how long it's going to keep a core group of players busy before you've basically bought all of the various fields and are completely farming the entirety of the map. So we've got our dump point for our requirements, and then these gardens are going to require garden substrate. Not really sure what that is going to be. Water, seed, solid fertilizer, straw, and manure. And then we're going to output tomatoes, lettuce, and strawberries. We've got recipes requiring solid fertilizer, and then we also have recipes requiring manure. But what the garden substrate is, I really don't know. And if we come here to our vehicle shop, and if we take a look at our pallets, do we have a pallet of garden substrate? We have a big bag of garden substrate. So I am not familiar with this mod to really understand and know what garden substrate is, but it is a requirement, and I don't really seem to have the ability to buy it. Let's go ahead and make our way to this player farm. This particular player farm is identified on the PDA as H3. And at H3, we have a cow area. It's going to hold 36 cows. We have our slurry point. We have a manure heap. Nice little mural on the building here. And then we have a fill point for milk. We have a workshop trigger. So here we have our milk point. Sorry. So this is slurry. So what is this? This must be for what? So there's a farm silo trigger here. Again, I'm not super familiar with this building. So here we have our food trough. We've got static cows here. So some people will or will not like the static cows. I'm pretty sure you can get rid of this shed if you really want to. So that's kind of an interesting way to open these buildings, these doors. Lots of triggers here kind of overlapping each other, which may make getting some of these doors open a bit difficult. So I'm guessing this is a dump point for our silo. And then this is going to be the fill point for the silo. We do have wardrobe and sleep triggers located over here. Slurry point. Then we have a base game shed here. Now while we're at it, we haven't really looked at our build mode. Let's go ahead and take a look at build mode. Now there's a whole lot of stuff here in build mode because of the fact that we've got 20 plus required mods. Right, so we have our Bavarian farm pack. We have our Franconen farm buildings. The half-timbered farm buildings. Then we have our Bavarian farm pack with respect to our silos. Bunker silo set. Placeable slurry trader. The Hessian farm. Silage silo pack. Slurry tanks. It's just crazy. That's before you start adding your own mods in here. Silos extensions, again, all of these various required mods are adding to that list. Plenty of sleep triggers. Now, as far as custom production goes, we do have included with the map the fermenter silo that's going to take grass, hay, straw, and chaff and convert that to silage. We also have apple juice production. We're just going to take apples and water and make apple juice. And we have our platinum expansion, pumps and hoses, Then we have the Franconian farm buildings, which is going to do a production silage. For the Hessian farm mod, which is going to do the Hessian fermenter. Then we have the small heating plant, which is going to do wood chips and make energy. We do have a couple custom sell points that are part of the dairy mod and sales silo mod. We do have then the small garden as far as our custom greenhouses. We do not have the ability to place any additional apple trees. I would expect to see those either under greenhouses or orchards, but we do not have the ability to place apple trees. We do not have any custom generators. We've got plenty of custom animal pens because, again, of all of those optional or not optional, all of those required mods that are listed there. We do have plenty of decorative items as well because we have the additional decorative package, the details decorative package, and such. And then if we take a look at our painting textures, we got a decent listing of our paintable ground textures. And then we have some fairly standard plants and fairly standard placeable trees. Yeah, we'll make our way further through town. Here we have another player farm. This one is identified as H4. It is going to include the pigsty that is behind us. Let's go ahead and run over there. There, we finally got that to come up. 25 pigs in this area. So we have our food and our straw triggers there. We have our slurry point. And that is in that cow pen. Back to the main farm buildings. We have our farm silo output and vehicle storage. They're going to have our farm silo dump point located within here. We have our sleep trigger. Then we have some more vehicle storage and such. I do believe that a fair bit of this particular farm can indeed be sold. Here we have a sell point. This particular sell point is going to be for dairy. We have a bakery then over here. So there we have the bakery sell point. Now, this is kind of a interesting setup here. We've got just cars parked on the road. And then we have player farm. But across the street, this is an example of one of those things that is, again, listed as rented by us. But if you try to enter it, you're not going to have any luck. There's no way to actually enter this vehicle, as you can see from the F1 menu. No enter vehicle pop-up is coming up here, but clearly it's stating rented by us. We have our silage production here, where we're going to take grass, hay, chaff, or straw and make into silage. Our dump point in our fill pipe. We have a manure heap, slurry trigger. We have our sleep trigger. Inside of here, we have our dump point. We have our cow buy point, drop off point. 45 cows in this farm. We have our milk trigger. So we've got a food drop off here. We've got chickens in this area. 360 chickens. And then, unlike the chicken coop at the main starting farm, we do have a marked area for our eggs. And then we have a farm silo dump and a fill point. And that is pretty much this farm area. And this is identified on the PDA as H5. Let's make our way up the hill to the next player farm area, which is right here. And this is identified as H8 or H6. So we have our sleep trigger and our wardrobe trigger. Here we have the Hessen fermenting silo. It's not popping up, but that's what that is. Some vehicle storage. And then up the hill, we're going to come up to some more just general vehicle and implement storage sheds. We've got our farm silo, dump and fill point. Then we have a cow barn. So we have our slurry point. We have our milk trigger. We have maybe a second milk trigger. 45 cows in this area. Pretty fancy. Man, pretty fancy. We got wrought iron fence here for our fancy cows. Manure heap. Now, we aren't really seeing an indicator for food. I would assume that our food and straw are going to be dumped here. I mean, we've got this dump indicator icon, which is kind of weirdly placed, but at any rate. And then just up the hill from that player farm, we have another one. That is located right here. Now, this on the PDA is listed as horse breeding feed purchase. But we don't have really any indicators as to what we're doing here with respect to a buy trigger. I mean, there's something located here, but it would be nice to see some visual indicators as to what's going on there. We have the horse farm, 12 horses here. We have our food trigger inside of here. Our straws trigger should also be located in there. So further up the hill, that is, like I've said, that is the animal dealer. That's going to be a slurry trader where we can buy and sell slurry. Here we have H8. It is a viable farm for which we can buy and place our own farm. Down the hill here we have then our sawmill to the left. There we have the dairy and the bakery to the right. So we have our pallet spawn point here at the entrance. Oh, sorry, this is our carpentry. So we have our pallet spawn point for our furniture. We have our sell wood trigger. We have our dump point for our logs or planks. We have our interactive trigger. And then we have a spawn point here for our pallets of planks. We have our wood cell trigger. Our dump point for our wood. We have our interactive icon. And then we're going to have our wood chip point around here somewhere. We're having a whole lot of questionable things going on here. So we aren't going to have too high of a score with respect to interactive areas and triggers being clearly marked. There's a whole lot of overlap. There's a whole lot of questionable things that really are kind of difficult to figure out unless you go and spend a decent amount of time here playing on the map. So this is another rented by us, but this one we can make use of. Get it out of the way over here. And heck, we got ourselves a free tree harvester that we can make use of. And here we have another player farm. This is identified as H4. Oh, we've already talked about this one. Sorry. That's just the other side of it. My bad. My bad. There's a lot going on here. A lot to unpack. So this is where we come down here. This is our starting farm area. So this is how we would get to our starting farm area. A couple pull-through bunkers over here. On the right, we have some bulk buy points. So down here, we have the ability to buy bulk fuel. Buying station for liquids. We have a sell point for agriculture. So we have a sell point there. Then a bulk buy point for seed, lime, and fertilizer. Can make use of the forklift. You cannot make use of this wheel loader, though. And this is going to take us around to some fields. And then again, we have that kind of educational area, athletic area. To make our way up the hill. And then over here, we've got fuel again. We have seed, fertilizer, lime buying. Then we have a farm silo stored up here. This is an area that you do have to purchase. I did go ahead and buy this area as well. We cannot make use of that one. And we're just about done here. We're making our way up to our apple orchard. With respect to buildings where appropriate are using the new texture technique, I'm going to give the map 3/4 of a point. Most of the buildings here can use or are using the new texturing technique. So here we have the BGA that we talked about earlier. This wheel loader is usable, so that's nice to see. And then we have our apple orchard. Again, up here, you've got to buy Farmland ID 112 to get access to these 8 apple trees. Now, I had realized that there was a couple production items that we did not run across during our drive around that I did want to go and look for. So I found the bakery and I found the apple juice production. Those are 2 things that we did not see during the drive around. Here we have H6. Remember, this is where we had the cow barn with the fancy wrought iron fence. Wrought iron fence. And then up the hill from that, we have our bakery. So we have our dump point. We have our interactive trigger here. And I'm only going to be assuming that our pallet spawn point is also here around the back. But again, we do not see that actually being marked. We have a sell point for silage, hay, straw, and grass. And around the corner, we have our apple juice production. So we have our water point. We have our dump point for our apples. We have our interactive trigger here. And then once we buy that, we have our apple juice. We have apples and water, so we're going to make apple juice. What we don't see is we don't see the pallet spawn point. So with respect to player and interactive areas being clearly marked, there's a fair bit of areas that I don't feel are clearly marked, should be marked clearer. There's a whole lot of triggers going on down at the main farm where we have the cow barn, then we have the calving area, and we got a whole lot more triggers than really seem to be needed. So I'm going to give the map a half a point there with respect to that. So that's going to give this map score 3.75 out of 5. I think with a little bit of work, this map can be very, very easily a 5.0. What's going to be required is the ability to sell all of the buildings at all of the player farms. And when you sell those buildings, decorative elements that are a part of, i.e. in those buildings, also go away. We don't have that right now. Buildings were appropriate using the new texture technique. Most of them are. That's a little point. We're only losing a quarter of a point there anyway. We lose another fair bit of points, half of a point, with the player interactive areas being clearly marked. There's a lot of trigger areas that are going to need some help with respect to the yellow markers, kind of indicating where those triggers are, or with respect to other things, maybe helpers, decorative elements, kind of really helping you along the way, explaining what's going on, and maybe in some respect, moving some triggers to where they are a bit more logically placed. I think that is going to go a long way in helping the average player really fully understand what is going on where with this particular map. Let me know, guys, what you all think down in the comments below. Was I too rough on this map? Are there areas that you think I could have been a little bit more lenient? And or maybe was I too lenient already? Until next time, happy farming.